Good morning, everyone. We get asked a lot for parenting tips, and today we thought we'd take to Twitter and answer some of your questions about being a parent.
Abe wants to know, how do you teach your kids to resolve conflicts and disagreements?
That's a good one.
That's one where we're like hitting hard right now.
Trying to deal with that, yeah.
Like we haven't had a major issue with it, and I feel like this year has been a lot of it. A lot more like siblings squabbling.
The more you slow down and stop things and take the time to address stuff with kids, the better. It's when you're in a hurry or you don't have time or you're like working on something else, that's when it gets harder to really address these types of issues with kids.
It's all a process. Doing something once with them isn't like, oh, I fixed you, now you're gonna know what to do next time. Like,
oh yeah, it's not a one-time deal.
You just have to really work with them and hope that you're building their hearts and their minds into being decent, caring humans, and like that's the goal, or whatever your goal is. Like really think of a big picture goal and be aware that it's a big picture goal and it takes a million times of doing something over and over again. Don't get too discouraged if you're not seeing it happen right away. It is a process.
When you don't see it happen right away. It doesn't happen right away. The main thing that we're trying to teach our kids is to communicate with each other in a kind way. And if they can do that, then they might be able to see each other's perspective. They can figure out a system for sharing if that's the issue, if it's a mine issue. One thing that's worked really well for us is having a timer going. So if we go like, okay, you can play with this toy for 5 minutes and then it's gonna be the next kid's turn and then they'll get 5 minutes. And so to present sharing in a more tangible way, in a way that they can sort of process and understand, as opposed to this like, you need to share and not giving a definition of what that is or how it works. And then they end up kind of forgetting about the timer and just playing with the toy together.
Yeah, usually. But timers are really awesome.
Yeah.
Like they really help. I did read an article once about like saying you're sorry in a full way. And I really like that. And it's basically where a person says they're sorry and then they say for what? Like, I'm sorry I grabbed the truck out of your hand, right? So I'm sorry I grabbed the truck out of your hand. And then you say, next time I will wait my turn, and then say, do you forgive me?
That also helps me as a parent to know that my kid is grasping the concept that I'm trying to teach them, because sometimes it's like, I'm sorry, I got a timeout. And it's like, no, that's not that's not the point of this. That's not what's happening here. And that goes in line with communication. As you teach kids to communicate, then you as the parent also get the mindset of the child and can sort of guide them.
I personally believe that saying you're sorry is extremely important, and like getting your kid to the point where they do it every time. I remember when the first two kids were like preschool age, a bunch of my friends were sending their kids to a preschool where they didn't make the kids apologize. And that was like one of their hard, fast rules. They were like, we never make them apologize. And I still don't understand that. And it was like, that was like really, really important to that school. And I know they had their reasons, and I don't know if maybe you've heard this as well. I just really disagree. I just feel like you have to stop a kid when they're doing something wrong and really go through the motions of like, that was wrong, and having them being able to address that and be aware of that being wrong and caring about the other person. I just think it's all really important. So I like the idea, that full apology, which is, I'm sorry, what you're sorry for, and what you're gonna do next time. Nagasis wants to know, when will you give your kids phones and will you restrict their usage? And that's actually the perfect question for today, because this video is sponsored by Circle. So thank you so much, Circle, for sponsoring this video. Circle is an amazing way to help you monitor your kids' internet usage, and actually your whole family's internet usage.
We're using Circle Home Plus, which was super easy to set up right out of the box. You just plug it into the wall, plug it into your internet, and you're set to go. Our kids are getting older and they are starting to have technology become a bigger part of their lives, either with homeschooling or with using devices to play music, things like that. And so we have started using Circle as a way of managing the time that they're online and things like that. And it is actually a really, really easy way as a parent to monitor what our kids are doing and to give them the freedom to do like searches and stuff for reports in a safe environment. I've really enjoyed that part of it so far.
So it's really important for us, for our kids, to be able to access computers and iPads and these new technologies that offer so many like educational opportunities And even for Bailey, she got a computer 2 years ago because she's a writer. Like, she loves to write, and she's used it for that for years. Like, she's very, very into her writing, and she does a lot of searching for things, and she likes looking up words. The boys, Jacob and Parker, they have access to iPads, and the iPads have really helped them. So Jacob has dyslexia, and there are a bunch of apps that have really, really helped him and give him a lot more access to books and other learning things that he needs. And Parker has been using it to assist him a little bit in his like early reader journey.
And math.
And math, he does. He loves
So
math.
instead of just using flashcards, he plays these math games that really have helped him get the basics of math down.
Yeah, we just also want to make sure that we aren't losing track of how much time our kids are on these devices.
That's one of the cool things about Circle is you can set time limits for internet usage or app usage. You can also turn all the internet off.
You just shut it down.
you can have the power switch, which is kind of cool.
One of my best friends recommended Circle to me, and she loves Circle, and that's like basically what she does at her house all the time. Like, she's like, my husband doesn't even know how to turn on his phone. Like, she shuts it down, and it's really great for them in that way.
You can set a bedtime. I set my bedtime because otherwise I'll stay up, like, looking at my phone at night and forget to go to sleep.
Yeah.
And sleep is important.
Yeah.
So that's a really cool feature of it as well.
My brain's at a point where I try to learn a certain app or a certain program, and I'm just like, I'm too old for this. Or too busy or too overwhelmed. And I felt like with the setup, it's like really clean and really easy to look at and understand and know right away what you're doing. And I appreciate that so much.
And then the app is super easy to use. Everybody's got their own profile picture. And
that's what I love. I love like the visual, like seeing our family just right there.
And through that, you can assign certain devices to certain people so that you can manage the time that's used on that device, as well as the different apps that device uses. So we as parents can then go in and restrict certain websites or apps and set the search function on certain search engines to be child safe. So our kids aren't really at the point right now in their lives where they're just free for all with devices. They're pretty much using them for homeschooling, but as they get older, they're gonna get more freedom, and it's nice to know that we as parents can restrict certain things, and we can also reward them with the Circle app. If they do certain chores or do something good for somebody, we can give them extra free time on those devices. And they get notified on the Circle app on their devices that they did something good and that they get a reward, which is also really cool.
You can also locate each other's devices with it. So if your kid has a phone and is at the park, you can see them and know that they're at the park, or know that they've walked down the street to their friend's house, or just get an idea of what they're doing, which I know is going to become more and more important to us.
So be sure to check out the link in the description box below to find out more about Circle and how it can help your family.
So in answer to your question, definitely we feel like as parents, we have an obligation to restrict and be aware of our kids' usage. We haven't given them phones yet. We're still avoiding it kind of as long as we feel like it makes sense for our family. Typically we're together, so I think that's a huge difference from a lot of households. Our kids are either with us or with an adult that we trust and who has a phone. The thing about Bailey turning 12 is that she'll be becoming babysitter age. And
she really wants to do that.
She really wants to babysit. And also she'll be able to be left home alone more often. And so far how we've managed that is she has a computer, and she can actually use the computer to call us, and she can use the computer to message us. I think devices can be wonderful, wonderful tools for learning and relaxing and lots of things. Also, I feel like our kids are at an age where they have no idea what's out there and what they have to be careful with, and what they could overuse as far as like how to manage their time. It's just another part of parenting where we're figuring out how to guide them into what they spend their time on, and also what they end up viewing and experiencing, and making sure that they're in safe spaces.
And using tools like Circle is a really, really great way as a parent to get more involved with what your kids are doing on their devices.
Laura wants to know, what is the most important thing to remember when parenting?
For me, it's that each moment that you get with each kid is a special moment that you're not gonna ever repeat, the exact same moment again. Keeping that in mind lets you really appreciate how precious each moment is.
I feel like one thing I read once was that your voice as a parent is going to be the voice that that kid has in their head as an adult growing up. And that really resonated with me. I thought that was so interesting. You have to be really intentional with how you speak and what you say, and just keep that in mind. Because I feel like there are so many times from my childhood that like stuck with me that weren't big moments for my parents. Like they instructed me on something or like told me not to do something, and it just happened to be the day that I listened, and then that became an important rule for me.
I feel like you like don't like opening cereal boxes because your parents made a big deal
I
about
do.
how you opened a cereal box once.
I have a lot of anxiety about opening cereal because my dad like yelled at me because I was bad at opening it as a kid, I guess. So instead of like cutting
what kid is good at opening cereal?
I don't know, but he was so mad. So now I'm like,
you're very good at it now.
no,
You've gotten a lot better. Good job.
I get anxious when I'm opening cereal boxes.
You can open it with confidence.
It's so interesting what sticks with you from childhood. That's like, your parents don't think as much about it. We might not think about it.
Yeah, they probably didn't even like.
Yeah.
Don't even remember talking to you about cereal
sure
boxes.
They don't remember. Maybe I should ask my dad if he's like, yeah, you were really a mess with cereal boxes. That's my one regret about having children, was how much they messed up my cereal experience. Jordan wants to know, have you ever asked a non-parent for parenting advice?
No, but that doesn't mean we haven't gotten some.
Unless I was like trying to really think like, okay, well maybe if we had a pediatrician or a professional who hadn't parented yet.
But that's more like medical advice, not parenting advice.
Yes. I love that question because it's so funny, I think, to any parent, because before you parent, you're the most perfect parent in the world. Everybody is. Everybody has an opinion, including us. Like,
yeah,
we
I
were
remember
the same.
like in college us talking like, this is obviously how we're gonna raise kids. We've read all the parenting books. We've listened to the advice of the talk show hosts that say like, here's how you parent. And then we went into it and we were like, oh, okay, well, no, we're gonna have to adjust this a little bit.
Yeah, and for each kid.
Yeah.
And for each moment.
Yeah.
It's like you're always adjusting. I feel like it even with parents, just because they're not parenting your particular kid in that particular moment. And that's the thing about parenting, is it's so specific. And there are general things you can kind of stick to or goals you can set, but there really isn't an official handbook that you can say works for everybody. Maybe the one exception would be more like non-parents, as in children or teenagers. Like not on how to parent, but like what their experience is.
What
now.
their perspective is. I think I have done that. Yeah.
I think that would be the answer. Like asking like, okay, well, you're a teenager right now. Like, what would you want the rule to be?
I don't think we're ever asking like how would you be the parent though, or like how should we parent? We kind of go like, oh, what are you interested in? Oh, that's interesting. Taking mental notes of like what punishments or consequences worked or didn't work in your life. Like,
because we have so much to learn just in general, and we've certainly never parented teenagers before. I feel like we can learn from them.
Next question.
Peachy Pie wants to know, how do you handle meltdowns or really bad tantrums? I have a 5-year-old that is a diva and can be very rude even though I'm teaching her manners all the time. Oh man, I feel you. First of all, they happen to just about everybody. And
I throw tantrums constantly.
No, I mean, like really honestly, Jacob didn't throw many tantrums growing up. Like, so we've had that kid that I'm sure can make a lot of parents feel like very cocky and confident. But we've also had so many tantrums and meltdowns. Like, please don't think that just because you're not seeing it in videos that it's not a part of childhood and growing up and development. And it's such a struggle. It is really hard. So I feel you. We have a few different techniques. It depends on your kids' ages and where you're at. A lot of times, like, you could be in public or you could be at home. That's obviously going to be different. I feel like my favorite technique is, all right, we're going to do this until you respond correctly. And then you're going to do it correctly a couple times. Say I say, okay, can you please put your shirt in the laundry?
I will not put my shirt in the laundry.
If that happens, we're gonna do this until you answer me correctly and until you get it done. This is the ugly part, right? It's gonna stay not cute, probably, especially in the beginning, for a long time. And you have to just kind of go, okay, I guess this is what we're doing for the next hour. And I think that that's really important, because if you set yourself as the parent up for the expectation of like, why isn't this working right away? Then you tend to push your kid, make them more angry than actually helping them, and then also get really frustrated yourself. But if you kind of come to terms right away, like, okay, I guess this is how it's gonna go. We're gonna keep going with this until you do it. And by doing it correctly, I typically mean saying, yes, mommy, and then doing the thing with a good attitude. We say right away, all the way with a joyful heart. So we'll say that to them and just kind of remind them like that's the expectation. And it's kind of a simple saying you can say. I think a lot of people have used this phrase.
Then they have to do it like 3 or 5 times
Yeah.
in a row correctly. And if they don't do it, it starts over again.
Yeah.
So if they give you one bad attitude, you're back to 1. And then you've got to, it's a long process, and the kid doesn't want to be stuck in it, in the process. So they're more likely to do it correctly. And by doing it multiple times, you really ingrain in them, this is the right way of doing this. This is the right response.
Right, it's practicing that good behavior, especially when with a little kid, like a lot of things are just practicing.
And there is a strength to having diva tendencies too.
That's
like
true
that,
too.
Typically those children are more outgoing, they're more expressive, they're able to share their emotions. So, you know, you're getting one thing for another, and you really just you have to teach them how to manage that, because being that outgoing sometimes takes a little reeling in on that person's part.
Yeah. I totally agree with what Christopher's saying, where it's like important to assess that, like, even though in our society that's obviously difficult and not working for you parenting wise and can lead to very negative personality traits, it's important to also look at how it's a positive, whatever it is. And that happens with so many different character traits of kids, and then teaching them how to use that as a strength as opposed to something that they're going to be negative with.
Once again, I want to say thank you to Circle for sponsoring today's video. Be sure to check them out. Thank you guys so much for your questions on Twitter, and we will see you guys next time.